when Vasco da Gama rounded the Cape of Good Hope, General He, with his troops, were in Mali, just outside Mali. But he was asked to go back home. And then, of course, Vasco da Gama did round the Cape of Good Hope. And in his second trip, he decided to establish a fort in Mali. And every single moment in history, every time we have seen powers rising and the impact that it has on the Indian Ocean, and therefore the Maldives, we wouldn't want to be sandwiched in problems. We would rather, if we are able to run our own affairs, and of course, in the process, we would want to be able to plug into the Indian rapid development. Our issues with China is there is a tendency on their part to trap us in debt.
Mm-hmm. It's a reality. It's not a tendency anymore.
Well, without firing a single shot, China has grabbed more land than the East India Company had done at the height of the colonial era. The Maldives owes so much money to them, and come 2023, it will be very difficult for us to pay that. The issue is we have not received the same amount of assets to map the debt. They have intentionally raised the price, inflated the price of the projects to the extent that the business plan fails. And when the business plan fails, of course, they would then want to have equity from the projects. And with equity, you relinquish land and sovereignty. So we have a number of projects where the business plan will never survive. And it was very obvious even when they started that these business plans will not survive. And therefore, we have seen this in Sri Lanka, in Hambantota, in the Colombo port. We have seen it in many, many, many places where large amounts of funds are diverted to projects, but the billing price does not match the assets created. So therefore, it will be very difficult for us to pay.
So predatory debt economics is being practiced by the Chinese. I've got your message. Now let me ask you a second question, sir. What are others doing about it? Now suppose we see our friend Maldives in this situation.
Yeah.
Is the US stepping up? Are the Indians stepping up? Are we helping you from your current situation?
The United States intervenes, or rather their assistance comes through bilateral means, through the World Bank and the IMF. And getting into an IMF program is another disaster. You are bound to lose a government if you go into an IMF program. I have gone into
so bound to lose your territory if you go to the Chinese and your government if you go to the Americans.
Yes, I have gone into an IMF program and lost a government to a coup. And that was also partly because of the methods that the IMF had subscribed us to do. And then in case of India, of course, India is far more rapid in offering their money. And we are very grateful. India has offered us 1.4 billion as development assistance through grants, through bilateral loans, through investment loans, and so on. But to answer your question, is India able to poise their power? Is India able to project the newfound wealth and the power that they have? It's difficult. I think it's very Persian that India is unable to disentangle itself from a very Hindu lotus position. So I think it will be very, very, India is finding it, in a sense, difficult to poise its power.